if at any point any of you have any questions, certainly feel free to ask them and stop me at any point. I tend to be rather long-winded, so just yell at me if I get too verbose and you have a question. So, can everybody see the slide deck, Herbert, on the screen?
Yeah.
So that's me. That's my casual look. So I use that as my chatter profile. Just a little background. I spent seven and a half years in the field as a sales rep with abrasive systems and IATD converter markets. In 2010, I was in St. Paul as a sales trainer with IATD and actually assisted Andy Green and Christy Pitzer as the training lead for Salesforce.com when we rolled it out to the IMC Salesforce in late 2010. So Andy certainly knows me and is probably rolling his eyes as we speak right now. So
he is. We see it right here.
I also spent some time as a market development manager in IATD for a year and a half, and then September of last year relocated out to Seattle and currently manage the Pacific Northwest area for the Industrial Market Center. 13 sales reps on the team. We represent about $70 million of business across Oregon, Washington, the northern part of Idaho, and the whole state of Montana. So quite a large geography, quite a few reps on the team, which brings me to Salesforce.com.
Hey, Todd, sorry to interrupt, but just so these guys know, last week you heard from Bill Flynn, or week before. Bill was one of those 13 reps up until really recently. So Todd and Bill go together.
Yeah, so Bill left the zone November 1st, but was one of the reps on the team up until then. And I would call him a super user of Salesforce.com. He was actually what we call our technology champion. So in each one of our areas of the country, we select one rep who's very fluid in using the CRM and other technologies like the iPad and some of those other things, and they kind of lead the team and train the team on how to improve their skill set with different technologies, including Salesforce.com. So as you can see, with 13 people and that book of business spanning, up to 6 to 7 divisions, you really have to be able to prioritize your business and focus on what's important and not get distracted by some of the little things that take away from delivering results every single day. And that's really how, as a sales manager, I frame up Salesforce.com to myself and to my team. So many of you know Jim Fall, and I worked in IATD when Jim was the U.S. sales director, and Jim used to tell us all to think big. And I use Salesforce.com to help me think big. We use Sarah, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but that shows us our results year to date in sales, which is great. But how do I see what's coming down the road in the next quarter or the next year or perhaps even the next 2 to 3 years? And that's what Salesforce.com does for me. So I can look at what's coming, how big my pipeline is of opportunity, whether we're closing things quick enough to cover our quota, a variety of different things, how much carryover of one opportunities I have carrying over to next year. So I truly know what my gap to quota is on a consistent basis. Obviously, we're assuming that the data that our reps is entering is real. And to be very frank with you, over the last 12 to 13 months, we've gone to the point of auditing the data that our reps put in here to ensure that what they're saying is real and accurate. And I would tell you that we're headed to a direction where this data is extremely close to being accurate and real to what our business currently looks like. What I'll show you some of these items I'm talking about as I dial through here. I'll go live onto Salesforce. But the screenshots you see on this slide show you two of the things that come off what we call the ABM dashboard. ABM is an area business manager, if you didn't know that. And one of the top screenshot you see is what we call our opportunity funnel. And this shows me at any given time how much opportunity I have and what stage of the sales cycle it resides in. So the blue bucket represents what I'd call 10% opportunities. So just getting started, barely warm, I'd call them. And you can see we have a healthy, we have $3.3 million today in our 10% bucket of opportunity. The green bar or the green section represents what we call in pipeline. And these are opportunities that are, we're doing demos, the customer is testing the product or trialing the product, and we're confident that provided everything goes well, we're going to close that. We have pretty good confidence on that. The orange section is what we call high probability or 90%, and that would be basically something crazy would have to happen for us to lose that opportunity. It is pretty much lock, stock, and barrel. We just need to solidify the purchase order. The other thing it allows me to do is take a look at what we've won recently and how much we're adding into our wins and our sales results. And so the bottom section there shows me my top 15 wins from the last week. So I can see what we're closing, how big it is, or God forbid we're not closing anything, and then I'm going to be on the phone or on my email making some phone calls to the team. So I think, right now I'll dial over and show you kind of what our dashboard looks like unless anybody has any objections to that. Can you see the dashboard now on the screen?
Yeah, yes.
So this is, we have two dashboards as an ABM, and as you look at this, you can kind of see what we see. The data on the left side, I can look at any given time. So typically on Monday mornings, Fridays, and when I'm talking to the reps, I'm on this dashboard looking at where we're at year to date, which you see on the left side of the screen here. This is data pulled out of our sales reporting tool, but it breaks down where we're at to quota year to date. It shows me broken down by our divisions, how I'm performing with each division or how this team is performing. It also shows me point of sale results and my top accounts that are growing and also my top accounts that are not or that are down for this year. And a lot of this stuff, there's business cases for it, and I know those, but it's helpful when we're talking to the reps to have this, and also when we're providing information back to the divisions to forecast where their business is going to go for the rest of the year. Certainly you can see the middle column here shows me that funnel and the recent wins, as well as my top 10 open opportunities. And if you look at this, I can click on any of these links and the report behind it will show. So if I wanted to look at Eric Reed's top 10 open ops, I can click on his name and it will take me to his report that is associated with those open opportunities. We use this, and I'll go back to my slide deck real quick here in a minute, but we use this to coach. We now have monthly coaching sessions with our reps, and these are preset throughout the year, and at what we do with those sessions is we actually work off of Salesforce.com to help us prioritize the opportunities that are most important. And each month when we meet, we check in on those opportunities and we look at the activities behind those opportunities to see if we're making any progress, and if not, what can we do to advance and accelerate the sales cycle. Interestingly enough, I can also look at why we're losing opportunities. If you look in this middle section of the screen here, that pie chart will tell me when we mark an opportunity as lost, why are we losing? So is it price? Is it that we don't have the right product? And that information can certainly be given back to marketing to help them position our product portfolio in a light that the customers will respond better. We also have a pie chart around business at risk, and we can report business at risk. I also can look at the team. Ooh, that just shot around on me. I can look at the team's performance year to date and where they're at relative to quota, and how many opportunities we're creating on a monthly basis to see if our pipeline is remaining full. And we're continuing to fill that pipeline as we close opportunity. So this dashboard really allows me to look at my business quickly and make some quick conclusions about where we're headed and whether we're going to reach the goals we've set forth and promised to our management team. We also have a second dashboard that we use where I can see where they're at year to date on budget, as well as we ask our sales teams to report their activities that they, as far as sales calls they're making with distributors, and then also sales calls they're making on their keeping accounts, which would be their accounts that drive their business that they cannot afford to lose, as well as their priority opportunities, which are opportunities that they need to advance to closure or to the next stage in the sales cycle some point in the next business quarter. And again, I can click on these different activity reports and sort by rep and see where they're at on all of their different opportunities. And then when we talk on a monthly basis, I can say, okay, I see you've been into this account 3 times this quarter. The opportunity still isn't closed. What can we do? Is there something we're missing? Or should we simply just move on to something that's more realistic to close? And that's a conversation that I have monthly with all of the reps. Where I spend a bulk of my time when I'm riding in the car making sales calls with a rep, or when I'm meeting with the reps one-on-one for 2 hours in a month, is the business plan. And we use the business plan to accelerate the sales cycle, but also if you look at the 3M leadership behaviors, I think Salesforce.com and the business plan is really all about prioritize and execute. It allows us to prioritize the important things and execute on those and not be distracted by other noise that's out there that isn't high-value activity. So the business plan provides us with a look at each rep's territory, and then we go into monthly coaching sessions. In the past, I don't think a business plan is something that's new to a sales rep or a sales manager. We all have them. You know, some of us wrote them on napkins. Others wrote it on a Excel spreadsheet. Some just kept notes in their planner. What Salesforce.com and the business plan that we use in there is now we all speak a common language. And the terminology we use, the plan that we set forth is the same for every single rep within the IMC selling organization. And at any point, anyone can come into our territory, pull up the business plan, and have an educated conversation about that individual's territory or the whole entire team if that's needed. It also allows us to look at the activity that the rep is engaging in around opportunity and accounts, rather than just simply saying, hey, our quota is 7% this year. How are we going to get there? Let's do it. Go sell. This gives us more of an educated look at what we're doing in order to achieve that quota number, as opposed to just simply hoping that we get 7 to 10% growth every year. The things we measure on the business plan are quarterly win targets. And how we figure those quarterly win targets is we actually look at what our average win size is of an opportunity, and then take that and divide that into what the quota gap is for the rep, and that gives us an average amount of opportunities they need to close on a quarterly basis in order to meet and exceed their quota. Just as a checking question, am I making sense to everyone, or am I just rambling?
Yeah, I think everybody's nodding that you're making sense. A lot of these people have seen the business plan here the last few weeks a little bit, but so a lot of this is refresher for them. But I think it's really good to hear it from somebody who's practicing as a manager and how you use it. So
sure.
It's good to see how you use it.
And what's nice about the business plan is in the past we kind of just expected the same from every rep, no matter what your territory was or what your geography was or what kind of marketplace you were in. It was, hey, here's your 7% quota number, and here's your programs you're going to use to get there. Let's go figure it out. With the business plan, we actually can look at, well, how many large accounts do you have? How often are you calling on those accounts? Are you going to have enough time if you're calling on your top 30 existing accounts every single month? How much time do you have to focus on winning opportunity? And so it's able to allow the manager and the sales rep to have a heart-to-heart conversation about where they're spending their time, and are they spending their time on the most effective things to grow and maintain their business. We also measure our distributor activity, and then you talked about the priority opportunity. And then really what it comes down to, and the way I always trained, and Andy has always trained, to my knowledge, on CRM, is, what's in it for the manager and the sales rep? What's the benefit for them? And I look at it, for a manager, it allows us to really have a structured coaching session focused on opportunity that moves the needle. It allows us to teach the sales professional really how to look at their business and manage their own business, and again, ignore the noise that tends to come at us daily. And then last but not least for me, this allows me not to have those moments where I'm blindsided by a piece of business that we have a problem at or might be in jeopardy. I mean, typically having these monthly coaching sessions, talking to each rep around their opportunity and their business, nothing really catches me by surprise. I'm kind of in the loop always. From the sales professional perspective, and I actually asked my reps about this week, the monthly coaching with management, that's guaranteed for 2 hours. They get 100% of my attention without me answering the phone or checking email or riding in a car. For them, that's something they've never had before necessarily. And it really makes them feel like I'm involved and understand their business, and I'm a resource for them to help them close and move opportunity. It also allows me to get involved early on in an issue that might be, I call it painful. I shouldn't say painful. It's probably just something that's going to bubble up and become an emergency or something like that. I'm able to get involved early and pull in the resources from St. Paul or wherever they might be to help the rep or the customer out. So I know you guys have looked at the business plan, but more so I can kind of show you how I use it and where I use it mostly. So the top section is important, but it shows me where they're at. More so I'm looking at the business plan as to where they're going and whether or not they're going to make quota on their current pace. So this is one of my reps' plans. Actually, this rep is in really good shape this year, but, he and I had a meeting this week, and if you scroll further down the business plan and look at his pipeline of priority ops, he's very light right now in that 50 to 90% bucket. And, I mentioned to him this week, I'm concerned that come next year, your opportunity isn't closing quick enough and you don't have enough in your pipeline where you may come out of the gates pretty strong, but come second and third quarter, we got to get more closed and more moving through the pipeline in order to achieve the numbers that I know he wants to achieve. So, as I'm having that conversation with him, we're looking at these opportunities, and we're saying, Mike, where are you going with these? Now, if you look at his 10% bucket, he's got 20 opportunities in the 10% area. So his focus for the next 30 days really needs to be on moving those 10% opportunities to the next stage in the pipeline or to closure, or frankly, to kill them and move on to finding more opportunity that will fill his pipeline and close more quickly. In the past, many of the reps would leave opportunities open for months or even a year and a half at a time, and it gave them a false sense of security that their pipeline was robust. But really they were fooling themselves because in our business, abrasives and tapes, it's a very rare circumstance that you're going to have an opportunity that's legitimately open for a year or a year and a half.
Say, Todd, sorry to interrupt, but I assume you've been trained on cracking the sales management code?
Absolutely.
Because what you just talked about is one of the key principles, I think, in cracking the code, which is killing opportunities as early as you can.
Absolutely. Now, the reps always will come back and say, well, gosh, I like to keep those open because, someday if we get a new product, I'm going to follow up on that. Well, certainly that's important, but we do have the ability to run a report that tells us, shows us all the killed opportunities for the past however many months you want to go back. So let's say the reason we had all these open opportunities for foam tape was because we didn't have the right thickness or something of that nature, and next year the business decides to launch that thickness, certainly we can go back and run a report that allows us to see where those killed opportunities are at and go revisit them and then start them as new again. Now, there are certain circumstances where an opportunity may stay open long term. For example, many of you know that Boeing is headquartered in the Pacific Northwest, and we've been working on speccing in our new masking tape at Boeing. And that is a process because of the FAA and a number of other issues that takes, we've been working on it for a year and a half to get it closed. And actually we're told that in the next 2 weeks we'll have that spec written. But that took us upwards of almost 2 years when all is said and done. So, that opportunity has been open for 2 years and, I'm okay with that. But yes, Andy, I spent 2 days in cracking the sales management code, and really this whole thing we're talking about, the coaching sessions, the business plan, the way we're managing, it really all started at cracking the sales management code. It allows us to really, again, prioritize what's important and get rid of the stuff we can't do anything about. The other thing you'll see as you scroll down here is the keeping account. And another step change that was made in our team was, it used to be we had what we called priority accounts. We changed the name. That's not really important. What was important is we changed the philosophy. And, I had members of my team that had 50 to 80 keeping accounts. And if you look at the screen on the right side, there's that section that says call frequency. And, we went through an exercise where the reps each had to go in there and establish a call frequency for their keeping accounts. Is it weekly? Is it monthly? Is it quarterly? And then we actually did the math and said, if you do all of these accounts on these 50, or all these calls on these 50 accounts monthly, we have done the data, run the data, and we know that an average rep makes 260 sales calls in a quarter. Well, if you're calling on 50 accounts monthly times 3 months in a quarter, you've used over 3/4 of your sales calls on just maintaining the current book of business you have. How can you ever grow your business just doing that? And so it's really forced the reps to look at accounts in a different light. What's the opportunity at this existing account? Is the business pretty solid? Do you have a good relationship? Do you really need to be there every single week? Maybe you only need to be there monthly or quarterly. Now, if it's an existing account where you still have 3 or 4 priority opportunities, well, then very, very well you may need to be in there every other week or even every week. So those are the types of discussions we're having around keeping accounts and priority opportunities. In addition, certainly business at risk is something that I'm heavily involved in. When we meet monthly, I get involved here, and there are many times when the sales rep says to me, Todd, I need you to come help me save this business, or I need to fly, John Skildum, the VHB marketer, out to help me with this. And that's, again, in those coaching sessions. We have the campaign opportunities on there. I won't spend a ton of time on that. Each rep has their own key objectives that they discuss with me, and we enter into their business plan. And then in our business, out here, channel, our distribution and converters help to drive many of our new opportunities. So each of them establishes their key channel partners and their key channel reps. And we discuss those because those do change as changes happen. And each rep has different distributors and distributor reps in their territories that are their winning reps. And oftentimes we spend time with reps at distribution who really are not providing the value that we need them to provide. So at that point, it's my job to say, hey, you're wasting your time here. Spend it with someone else.
Todd, David here. David Marsh from Canada. A question on the campaigns.
Yeah.
Are they fed in from marketing? Do you put them in manually? Is it a
so there's a section in Salesforce where marketing every year, twice a year. So we're going through it right now in December, and then we'll do it again in June. We have what we call zone business planning meetings, where we bring our whole zone together and we put together a high-level plan for the zone. We just finished it this week, actually. And at that point, marketing launches a number of campaigns to us, and they enter those into the campaign database in Salesforce. And in there, you will find literature, tech data, promotional information, videos, possibly links to videos, things of that nature. So all the content of that campaign can be loaded into the campaign database, and the sales rep has access to it as long as they have access to SFDC. It's very nice. And then the marketer, if they're looking for results on their campaign, can come in here and run a report using the campaign code and say, oh my gosh, I've got $4 million of opportunity for my new VHB, but we've only closed 10% of those. What did I do wrong, or what are the reps doing wrong? Did they not get trained enough, or, what's that issue? So certainly, and also we do run some promotions and contests internal to the Salesforce where, in order to get credit, they have to enter the campaign to the opportunity. Does that make sense, David?
I was in A, so thanks.
Thanks, Todd.
Yep. So that's kind of the business plan in a nutshell. And Andy, am I just cruising way too fast or what?
No, it's perfect, Todd.
Okay. So going back to my slide deck here, the other thing that I use frequently is chatter, and I'm sure you guys have been exposed to this a number of times. So the manager typically will use it in a different light. So if you look at the chatter flow I put on this slide, there was a market development manager who talked about some West Coast shipyards where we had collaboration, between my rep and a rep in California, and they talked. And so then you can see here, I said, at Mike Westman, please share the success at Vigor so we can offer a replication opportunity for the rest of the ISS team. So now Mike then comes back and says, here's the description of the application and how I did it and why we were successful. And the idea here is that other reps around the country that are calling on shipyards now can replicate that application around the country. And we get paid back too, right? So oftentimes I'll see a post, in the morning. I go on, and you guys can see here on the bottom of my screen, I have Chatter Desktop on my laptop. So, all day long, well, you can't see it because I got you in slide mode. But down here in the bottom of my screen, I have Chatter Desktop. So all day long, I am, or at least in the morning and at night if I'm not in the field, I can look at Chatter, see what's out there, and then I can send it out to my team using the @ sign so that I make sure they see it. Even something as simple as today they announced that we have new selection guides out there for adhesives and tapes. Certainly I can send that out to my reps or my team or our team to make sure they're seeing it. I think all of us were a little scared of Chatter when it first launched, and Andy, you and I kind of remember launching it and the hesitation that was out there. It's really amazing to see the collaboration that has happened in 3 years here in the U.S. From business replication to sharing best practices, and sometimes it's just simply, some fun little comments or challenges the reps put out to each other that creates a conversation, and it keeps your sales forces across the country connected, because as you know, we don't get a chance to get together frequently and see each other. So certainly it's turned out to be a blessing, and I think many of our sales management team would agree with that.
Hey, Todd, just to reiterate a little bit about that slide you're on there, is Paul, what part of the country is Paul from?
So Paul is from Southern California.
Okay. And
then you look, there's another name in there, Paula, it's Paula, but I can't pronounce it very well. She actually is down in the Maquiladora region.
Okay, so is Mike one of your reps then?
And Mike's on my team, yes.
Okay, so you saw Paul's post, and then you kind of spread it out to your team, and Mike is now responding and taking action based on that. Yep.
And then he's coming back and saying, well, here's one that I did at Vigor that you might be able to replicate down there.
Gotcha.
So it's really kind of it's amazing how this thing has worked, Andy. I mean, it really, and not every time is it successful, right? But surely these things were not happening in this level of frequency prior to Chatter.
Yeah.
And it wasn't an overnight sensation, as you know, Andy, right? I mean, it took some time to get legs.
Everybody thought it was Facebook for business, and they were pretty afraid of it at first.
Well, and then the reps didn't want to look stupid if they put something out there, and, well, who was reading it, and was I going to be judged, and, all of that. And what it's turned out to be is truly just collaboration amongst the sales teams. And oftentimes, the only time you see management getting involved or marketing or tech service is if they feel they can add something of value to that conversation. They're not critiquing or grading or frowning upon anything that's said. That being said, when we launched it, we surely were careful to say, hey, this is not a social forum for you to start sending jokes and using curse words on and, things of that nature. We surely had some rules around it, right? So, and then the other thing that I use is the report function. And what I did here was just take I'm sorry, what'd you say?
We had a question here in the room.
Oh, go ahead.
I think it's really, this is Jacqueline, I'm from Taiwan. I think it's really amazing to see how Chatter has been a really good place for collaboration, but I think from the beginning when you started using it, you weren't sure how it's going to turn out that well, right? So what are the critical things that you've implemented to create that environment?
Well, first off, I think the most important thing is, and Andy, you might be able to help with this as well, but I think one of the most important things is to make sure it is driven by the sales team. If it's management that starts posting everything, they just become uncomfortable with it. So I would say that the key thing was it started best in our abrasives business, and they created their own chatter group for what they call ASD, Beyond the Limits. But it's essentially just the whole abrasive sales force. And really how they started was just saying, hey, when you get a big win, post it on there and include the details of the application so that other reps can take a look at it. And organically it just starts to grow. Because what happens is you get the management saying, hey, great job, Todd. And then you get other reps saying, hey, Todd, can you send me this, the pencil cell you used to close the deal? And then somebody posts that file on Chatter and just starts growing from there. If it's a forced thing, they're just going to stop using it. They have to feel like it's free and they're able to express themselves and they're not being, Big Brother isn't watching, I guess. Is that a relevant term?
Yeah.
So
I think another thing that helped, Todd, tell me if you agree or disagree, Mary Johnston, the sales director, this might seem counterintuitive what Todd was just saying, but I think it actually reinforces it. Mary doesn't go in there and she didn't start off going in there until there was a lot of chatter already. But what she's been doing every month is putting in what she calls a chatter of the month into her web stream that she just sends out. It's a video of herself talking to the entire sales force. She always includes a chatter of the month in there, which is just like Todd did here. It's very similar to that. But it's really showing that, hey, Mary uses this. This is not something that
yeah, and Andy, the key thing to that was Mary didn't use a stick approach with Chatter. She almost became like the cheerleader for Chatter, right? I mean, anytime she would see something that she just thought was really cool, she would ask the rep, please chatter that out for me. I think other reps could use that, right? I mean, recently she did that with something my channel specialist put together a promotion out here, and she saw it, and she sent me a note saying, please have him chatter this out. I really think the rest of the country could benefit from it. So she's never been like, if you don't use Chatter, you're in trouble. It's always been a very positive, like, hey, this is a great thing for our business. And I'll tell you, the reps have really grabbed onto it. Andy, I mean, would you say it took, 12 months, 6 months, 8 months, something like that for it really to start to blossom?
I think a lot of it had to do with, there's pockets of reps who felt very comfortable right out at the beginning of it. There's other reps that took quite a while. So I'd say, yeah, about a year before there was really a big momentum with it.
Yeah, and I would definitely say our abrasives division led the way. IATD certainly jumped in shortly thereafter. So it's been really cool to see it grow because I think everyone, especially with a company like 3M where, we tend to be conservative, we all had our doubters out there about Chatter when we first launched the system, and it's really cool to see it become what it's become and have people truly making it that collaborative environment, which is what we were told it was when we first launched Salesforce back in 2010. So it's just kind of cool to see where it's come. And I find it, and I think Bill mentioned in his presentation that he used to check it every morning, and I think he still does. And I'm the same way. I get up in the morning, I check it, I get a report sent to me every night on email with what's new on Chatter of groups that I follow. And it's been a great way to start discussion and within the zone and all of our team. So I'm a big proponent of it.
This is Kathy from Consumer. I was wondering, do the marketers and tech service people, are they in there a lot as well, or is it mostly the sales group?
Oh, I would say that the marketers especially use it, and Marcom, Marketing Communications. Anytime they launch something, a program, a new piece of literature, they chatter it out to the sales force and put the literature ID number or the promotion flyer or whatever it might be. And the reps just love that because they can pull it right off a chatter, download it, and they've got it on their iPad. So the marketers use it quite frequently. Tech service has been a little bit slower to adapt, but they're certainly coming on board. The beauty of it is the reps have historically always called tech service, but, sometimes there's some tricks in the field that the tech service reps have never used before that a sales rep can help with, right? So some of those things happen, but certainly marketing and marketing communications uses chatter just as much as the sales force.
Hey, Todd, one of the things people have asked over the years is, what is it that gives reps incentive to answer other reps' questions? I've always kind of wondered that.
Yeah, Andy, that's a really great question. I think salespeople just want to help each other. It's kind of that we're all in this together mentality. They compete, certainly, and they want to be the best. But they know that if they help that person out, someday they're going to need help back. And I truly think that's what it is. I don't know. You may have a better explanation, Andy.
No, I think that's it.
So it's not something great. It's not that it's some secret sauce. That's kind of what it is. So
we've never had to. I guess my point. We never had to create incentive programs to make people use it or anything like that. It's been truly just people wanting to help other people. That's been enough momentum that it's really gone well.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say, I think many times people think, because it's kind of like a Twitter or a Facebook, that maybe the younger generation or the newer generation would be more likely to adapt. But if you look at the people who use chatter, we have many of our S5 veteran sales reps that are very active on chatter, helping out our newer DSRs that are just coming into the field. So it really is not specific to, a certain demographic of our sales force. So that's even more of a powerful statement, I think. So I would tell you that of everything we have in Salesforce, that chatter was probably the one thing that when we got up and going, people grabbed onto more quickly than some of the other things like managing your activities and things like that. So it's certainly been a welcome tool and a great kind of surprise. The next slide, obviously, I quickly mentioned was using reports. So I have the screenshot you see here. This is my personal report folder. I have the dashboard in there. I'm able to pull lists of our keeping accounts. There's also a report on there, and I don't see it on this screenshot, but I actually have a report set up where it's called the Opportunity Age Report. Let me see if I can get it over here. Oh. There we go. See if I can find it. Pipeline age check. So I can run a pipeline age check report, and you can see as I run this report, and it takes a little while to run, so I'll just show it to you with the last time I ran it. But there are, I can look at opportunities and see how old they are, and right here, the top one, 1,157 days old, this one needs to be killed, regardless of what the excuse is from the rep. So, that allows me to have conversations, and I'll actually send that out to the reps and say, hey, we need to look at every one of these, and let's talk about why this is still open or why it should be killed. And again, going back to cracking the sales management code, and the 3M leadership's behaviors that with the size of the book of business we have here, $70 million, 13 reps, and you have to grow at 10% every year, you certainly need to be able to take a look at your business and focus on what's important and get rid of the stuff that is taking away from the high value activities. Is there anything else I can drill into more detail, or are there questions? I know that was quick, and certainly I can't do justice to what we do every day with it, but I was hoping to at least give you a glimpse into how a sales manager can utilize the resources on the site. So.
Hi, Todd. This is Rita from China.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. One question about the coaching, and I'm really impressed that how can you combine the tools, Salesforce.com, and cracking the sales management code so perfectly. So can you tell us what type of training have you ever received to train you how to combine the methodology between two programs?
Well, so it started, all of us read the book, obviously. And then about a year ago this time, maybe a little bit more than that, Dennis Leahy held a training class surrounding cracking the sales management code, and it really focused around how to use CRM to have these monthly coaching sessions. So the first month of every quarter, we meet with every rep for 2 hours, and then every subsequent month after that in the quarter, we have a half-hour phone conversation. And Dennis, along with Mark Pawlowski and Cliff York, really were the ones who helped to implement, and Mary Johnston, implement this philosophy and drive the ABMs to start managing our people in this light. I'll be very honest with you. I tell you, we've made huge progress, but we're still learning. And we will get better next year and even the following year after that and every year after that. We're just starting to truly crack the code and understand it and implement it. So, I use it, and I feel like we've made huge progress, but I still feel like we have a long way to go, and we're getting there. And the first step for us, where you guys have the advantage, is you're going into kind of a clean slate. We really, the first year and a half we used this tool, we weren't managing in this light, and due to that, we spent a good portion of this year just trying to make the data real, where we were cleaning up these old opportunities and really getting focused on the priority things that we were going to work on for the next 90 days. And I'd say the first 5 months of this year, that's really where we focused. And the last 6 to 7 months, we've been focused around, okay, how can we close these priority opportunities or move them to the next stage of the cycle? So I would tell you it's training, and then it's really having, from the top of your organization down, management buying into the philosophy and using it daily and weekly and monthly, and just making it habit. That's really what is the best way to learn.
Speaking of getting the numbers real, how do you work across your reps? I'm getting those real. I mean, we definitely have some glasses half full and glasses half empty people.
Certainly. So it's a challenge. I mean, first you have to be passionate about it. You have to believe in it, because if you don't believe what you're saying, certainly your sales force will not believe it. Secondly, you have to take the time, and there is effort involved. I mean, quarterly, I audit at least 2 to 3 of my reps and pull a random sampling of their opportunities and verify those with our point of sale data to make sure that our annual value is accurate. Because one of the things, maybe I'm a little naive, but there aren't many reps who just make things up. What happens is they put an opportunity in, and they put the value as $100,000, and it's really $10,000, and it overinflates their pipeline. So, oftentimes that's the thing that I notice that hey, be careful. Really try to estimate the value of the sale as to what it is. And then the other thing is just not being afraid to have those honest conversations with your team to say, hey, look, I don't care if your pipeline's empty. Be honest with me. Be honest with yourself. We can fix it. But first thing you need to do is just be honest. Because right now you're leading yourself, your manager, and my manager to believe that, you're going to come in 20% above quota and you're 5% below this year. We got to fix this, and the only way we can fix it is by being real. And when you put it in that light to the rep, they start to get it. The biggest fear that's out there is, oh my gosh, if I kill all these opportunities and Mary Johnston opens up my business plan, she's going to think I'm not working. Well, that may or may not be the case, but the truth is that's my job to manage that. And as long as I can explain it and address it, then Mary, even if she does see it, is not going to care. She's going to care, but she's going to know that we're doing something to fix it. And there might be a legitimate reason. Perhaps this rep, has a territory that's $8 million and just doesn't have the time to focus on new opportunities because every day they're defending the book of business they have. Well, then that may be a reason for us to go to management and say, hey, I need another rep. Now, that may not happen, but it certainly gives us a legitimate case to give to management, whereas before it was more like, well, gosh, our guys are so busy, we need more reps, right? So this gives you data behind your request. So it's a challenge. Don't get me wrong. I can't tell you that every rep I have of the 13 is an adopter, but we're getting there. And I have a very unique zone. I have 13 people. 8 of my 13 people are less than 2 years in their current role. So if I didn't have Salesforce.com, I think I would go out of my mind because I have to be able to have a quick way to look at their business and coach them because with that many new people, they all need my attention, and it's very hard to do that. And so having these monthly conference calls actually takes away from some of the daily panic calls you get from a sales rep because they know you're already in the loop and you're already helping them. So there's not this 5-alarm fire going off at 3 p.m. on a Friday. So hopefully that addresses your question.
Go ahead. So Todd, with all the recent turnover that you just mentioned, or the new reps, have you also seen value for the reps themselves in inheriting all the data from the previous rep?
Andy, that's a great point. Especially I had one rep who left kind of suddenly the company. Obviously Bill got promoted, and I had another rep who got promoted. And when they leave, the new rep may come in 30 days later, and it's like, okay, what do I do now? And, the first thing we do is day one, sit down with Salesforce.com, and we review, okay, now you need to go follow up on these opportunities. You need to go meet these channel partners. You need to hit all these keeping accounts. And it's a 1 sheet or 2 sheets of paper that gives them the blueprint, which is basically their 30-day plan, their 60-day plan, and their 90-day plan to get accustomed to the territory. So as we make this data more and more real, this becomes even more powerful of a tool when you do have turnover. In the past, if you had a rep who was putting in a bunch of, overestimated opportunities or old opportunities, the rep would come in and say, well, gosh, this is no use for me. Back in the Siebel days, that was frequently the case. And, now we can print out their business plan or pull it up on the iPad, and they've got a snapshot of the business right in front of them that's 2 pages big, and it's really easy to understand. So, anything else? Any other questions? Did I embarrass you, Andy?
No, not at all. Did I embarrass you?
No, but I'm trying to figure out a way I can embarrass you. So.
Keep trying. I remember who won last night.
I know. Oh, gosh.
Cowboys beat the Bears.
So no, I think for me, being a new sales manager, relatively new, a year and a half, having a very inexperienced team, this has become kind of our rallying cry and how we all talk together. We are at our business planning this week. We pulled up our key channel partners. We were focused on our priority ops, and we actually did the math and said, here's our quota. Here's what we think we're going to lose. We know we're going to get something from price growth. We know we're going to get something from just organic economy growth. We know we have this much in carryover, which leaves us with, I think it was around a $3.6 million gap to quota. And so then we said, okay, what are our priority opportunities that are likely to close early in the year? What programs can we leverage with end user and distribution and new products that will deliver that remaining $3.6 million? And so it really made sense to the team, and we could boil it down on one slide. I could basically show them those numbers, and it was like, wow. And then you look at it and they say, wow, that's a big number. And I say, okay, take $3.6 million, divide it by 13, and, you're talking less than $300,000 a rep. That's doable. So it really made it less daunting for them. So.
Jacqueline has a question here.
A while back you were saying that the adoption for the managers to use Salesforce.com drastically grew after you took the cracking the sales code training. So if like in Taiwan, maybe not a lot of us have done that training yet, do you think it's something that we need to do before?
I think my recommendation would be yes. I think it helps a manager grasp how they can use it. Because prior to that, I think everybody was kind of using it in a different way, and that training really opened our eyes to why a manager should be using a CRM daily. Because I think in a lot of cases prior to that, it was viewed as a rep's tool to manage their pipeline, and that the ABM was just kind of checking in to make sure they were doing it. Whereas once we went through cracking the sales management code, we all became active participants, or not all of us. I mean, again, adoption is different across the board, but I'd say the vast majority of us all have become active participants in using our CRM daily. So,
do you guys think you could have influence on getting the sales managers to?
Actually, I'm not sure. I know that we're starting on that, but I don't know if that's done already. I just wanted to know if it's a suggested kind of.
At the very minimum, I would buy all of them a copy of the book, and have them read the book.
Is that available in Mandarin? Do you think?
No.
But have you already done this cracking the code training, right? Some of them have.
I think GCA and success team is launching the CSM workshop starting from this year and next quarter.
Okay.
So we'll cover.
Hey, Andy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perhaps Dennis Leahy would be willing to share one of the workbooks from that training with some of the folks in the room there. The training obviously is extremely valuable, but the workbook he put together I reference all the time, especially some of the examples that are in there of how a manager can analyze reports and data and things of that nature. It may or may not be of value, but certainly it would be something you could ask Dennis about.
Okay. Yeah, Farmer's taking a note. Check with Dennis.
Is this more for territory management, or is it key accounts as well?
It's both plus other things.
Okay.
Both. So, I mean, one of the things I have is I have one of my 13 reps is a Boeing key account rep for abrasives and tape. So, you know, his business plan certainly looks different than the territory rep would, right? Because he has one keeping account that has, you know, 15 locations in my territory. And then, you know, a lot of his activities are on writing specs that are future forward, you know, defending existing business, you know, things of that nature. So his business plan, and he really has one channel partner he works with because they own the contract. So his business plan and our discussions are quite different than, say, I am with Mike Westman, the territory rep. So certainly it is used for any function. It just changes your discussion with the rep based on what their job function is.
I think Rita had a question too.
Yeah, Todd, last question.
Oh, keep going. I love it. It's great.
Todd likes to talk.
Based on your experience, do you really see there's positive relationship between CRM coaching and meeting a quota?
So we actually recently here, and Andy, have they seen the NSFL dashboard?
No, they have not.
Okay, so can I show that real quick?
Yeah, please.
It might take me a second to pull it, but just give me a quick second.
What does that stand for?
So NSFL stands for the National Salesforce League, and it's kind of it's a fun thing that was meant to be a fun, like, kind of competition thing, but really what it is a dashboard that shows us where the reps are at. And the reason I bring this up, I screwed that up. And just give me a quick minute to find my presentation, and I'll finish my thought. There it is. So this is just my zone that you're looking at, and some of these folks are relatively new, but the reason I bring this up, it stands for the National Salesforce League, and what it does is if you look at this dashboard that's on your screen, you'll look at those columns past the rep name, and it says OW, that's opportunities won, OE is opportunities entered, KAA is keeping account activities, DA is distributor activities, and POA is priority op activities. And the reason I show you this is if you look at the reps on this report that have the most activity, I'm not so concerned about the opportunities won and opportunities entered, but these three columns here, for example, you look at Mike Westman, Ryan Atkin, those folks, Ryan Atkins currently sits number one in the country for quota attainment. And if you look at his level of activity, it's one of the larger levels of activities, especially on priority opportunities in my zone. So to answer your question, the data certainly correlates to there are some exceptions to the rule, don't get me wrong, but if you look at the majority of the data, those who are actively using Salesforce to focus on their priority ops are also the ones who are exceeding quota the most this year. So it's certainly
it's hard to correlate the data exactly. So for example, Ryan Atkin, the number one rep in the country on quota attainment, he doesn't have more KAA than let's say Mike Westman. He doesn't have more; he has less. But yet he's doing better. So you can't do it that precise. But the fact that Ryan's got all those numbers compared to look at Devin Williams, for example, got 3 and 4. That's a big difference, and I don't know how well Devin's doing, but you could infer, right?
Yeah, and Devin's brand new, but look at Eric Reed, right? That's an example of a rep who's struggling this year, and the data certainly correlates to that. Now, again, some of this is like I look at keeping accounts. Well, for Ryan, he's not focused as much on keeping this year. He's focused on his priority ops. And, because of that, he's closed quite a few opportunities, almost 50 opportunities this year, which have helped lead him to be a top achiever in the country. Now, again, it's not a one-to-one comparison. The data doesn't always jive. And by the way, we just started measuring this, so I'll be curious to see how this comes next year when we start going through next year's cycle of sales as well. But certainly, I see that my highest achieving reps are also the reps that are consistently in Salesforce using it as a tool to manage their business. So, great question, and Andy, great point too. It's not a one-to-one type of thing. So. And I will tell you, this dashboard has recently come out, and our reps are somewhat uncomfortable with it, but they're getting used to it. I'll put it to you that way.
Kevin has another question.
Yeah, and this is going to be my last question. A while back, you were saying that you had a sales focus on Boeing, key account focus, and his report is used differently. I was thinking that maybe we could use that as training purpose in the future to teach our sales who are more focused on key accounts to leverage the tool, Salesforce.com.
Yeah. I mean, I think most certainly you can use it in that light. I mean, definitely in our business group, we don't have as much of a key account focus as others do. I mean, as far as a job function, certainly every rep in their territory has key accounts.
Hey, Todd, which rep is it that covers Boeing?
It's Dave Reichman.
Could you walk through his business plan and just pretend you're having a conversation with him?
Yeah, so the only issue we have right now with Dave is that his business plan is combined with the territory because we haven't broken it out yet, but I think he has a separate one for Boeing. Let me just double check if I remember how we just divided this. I got to double check it. Let's see what he did here. So it's a little bit unique, but as of basically this month, it will go specifically just to Boeing. But for this year, he and I, when we have our conversations, it's strictly focused around his Boeing function. But even when you go back to, let's go to this chart, and you look at Dave, Dave, his distributor activities are dropping tremendously, and his keeping activities will shoot up because he is going to be focused strictly on Boeing, and has been for the last probably 6 months. So, so you look at his opportunities. He's got a few mixed in here that are old from his territory that he had, but the vast majority of everything he has is Boeing. And if you look at it, the way he has aligned the Boeing account is he actually has an account that's called Boeing Reichman, and it allows him to look at Boeing as a whole, and then he can enter the opportunities based on location. So it's an interesting thing, and we're still trying to get to the best way to handle him. He's a little bit different. But certainly the key account is something that, as far as from a Salesforce perspective, I couldn't see how you couldn't use it to a benefit just because of all the measurement of opportunity and, most key accounts have very long sales cycles on things. I mean, Boeing is a great example of that. As I mentioned earlier, almost everything we work at Boeing has an 18-month sales cycle if it's a spec-driven process. So certainly the business plan helps to keep you focused on where you can make a difference. So,
just one other little spin on it, Todd. I don't know if you do this with your channel specialist or not, but you know, we did have that special business plan for the channel specialists.
Yep.
And there's also the opportunity for them to, because they're kind of like the key account rep in some ways.
Sure.
They have a special business plan called a channel account business plan. So like if you pull a pick list down for the view up there.
Yeah. Create new view. Where at?
Yeah, where it says 2014 product specialist business plan. Oh, go back.
Okay.
So where it says 2014, pull that list down.
Yeah.
And go to 2014 channels, channel partner plans. Right there. Okay, your group doesn't have any yet. But
well, that would be because my channel specialist is brand new. my former channel specialist was not very effective. So now I'm sharing dirty laundry, Andy.
What it does, though, is it allows you to have a business plan for a specific account. And it's real similar to a territory business plan. There's just a few things that are different. I think it's something we can do in a fast follow after wave one here.
Yeah, I think, I will tell you that as far as from the cracking the sales management code and this change we've been going through here in the last 13, 14 months, the channel specialists have definitely been, as you used the term, Andy, wave two. We have been focused on our product specialists more so than we have our channel specialists using the cracking the sales management code philosophy.
Just to comment on that, this is Roger George, that Scott Anderson is trying to lead a redesign of that. And frankly, it shouldn't be in the business plan section. It should be it should be something that attaches to the channel partner account record, so it persists over years. Because you're never, like, somebody's going to look at a Fastenal location business plan in 2013. Well, he has to go to somebody's business plan to look at it, whereas it makes more sense to attach it to the account record. But here are my plans for this this channel location for this year. Kind of using the same functionality, but just put it in a different place.
Hey, Roger, that is a great point. I mean, one of the difficult things with the channel function is that oftentimes a channel rep is working on a shelf conversion. So, all the masking tape at Fastenal, for example, and they're trying to cross all that over. At the same point, the sales rep is entering those as end-user opportunities in his business plan or her business plan. So there's a little bit of a dual count, so to speak. So
that's why we weight the pipeline differently for the channel, in the channel side.
Yep.
The discount is heavier, so it's 50% rather than 25%.
Right. So that's one of the reasons why the individual channel account plans is something our channel specialists are very excited about.
Yeah, I think it'll be a great improvement, and it's really an account plan rather than a business plan.
Sure.
And you could apply it to all different kinds of accounts. So.
Sure. So hey, hi Roger. By the way, I didn't know you were in the room. So.
Well, I came down here to learn, Todd.
Oh, now I feel real self-conscious. There's going to be a report going back for sure. So.
No, you did a great job. So.
Well, I have spent a little bit of time with Salesforce, and I do have a bit of a unique perspective, seeing as I helped launch this thing back in 2010, and Andy and I spent many an hour discussing the finer points of how to launch Salesforce.com the correct way. So.
Was that open refreshments? Were there refreshments in the Grey Goose and tonic?
Yeah.
I
wasn't going to say that, but I won't lie. That definitely helped flow the conversation. So.
And that you keep talking like this, they'll put you on the global team. So.
Hey, Roger, everything's negotiable.
Yeah.
So, anyways, no, I honestly, I can't tell you enough what a pleasure it was to work on that project and to work with Andy and Roger and the team. And truly, I know that many of you are probably sitting in the room right now thinking, wow, this is a tall order, and I don't know how everybody's going to adapt, and I'm not going to paint it with rose-colored glasses. There will be challenges along the way. There will be, slow people to adopt. But the benefit of having the common language, the ability to prioritize, the ability to have those difficult conversations with your team, when you get to where you're going, you will look back and say it was worth it. So if anybody ever wanted to reach out to me via email or phone, please don't hesitate. I'm always willing to talk and answer any questions or just let you express your frustration to me if you need to. So certainly I'm a resource, and I'm on 3M Source if anyone needs to reach out to me.
Thank you so much for doing this for us today. We really appreciate it.
No problem. I wish I could have been there in person. I'm sure the weather's just gorgeous up there in St. Paul right now. So.
Okay, good. Well,
thank you, Todd.
Thank you, Todd.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend and safe travels.
So, Todd, you're going to send us the presentation, right?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Todd, you're going to send your presentation to us?
You want me to send it to you? That's no problem. I'll send it right now, Herbert.
Good. Thank you. Okay.
All righty.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
weekend.
Yeah.
You too. Bye-bye.
So we don't bring it in. Be careful who we send this into, because some of the things.
Right. Yeah, some of those. I want to see. I think some of them is a screenshot, but let me just stop the meeting first. Okay?
Yeah, here's what happened.